Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladins Alliance. The diamond coin is gone, and I don't think anybody will really have the diamond coin at this point with how catastrophic these pick'ems went. Of course, heroic, phase, vitality all went through. Everything else completely collapsed. 9 going 0-3. ITB actually qualifying over the likes of Fnatic. You had Apex beating NIP. You had G2 falling to Fnatic. You had Na'Vi losing to FaZe and before that Monty. ENCE dropping a series to get eliminated against NIP. I mean, some of these results were just absolutely insane, especially with in the sense that, you had teams knocking out favorites and then failing to actually qualify for the playoffs. And with that, you have one of the wackest top 8s that I've seen in a major in quite some time. We've had so many different pop-ups of different teams that don't necessarily stay at tier 1 levels, and it's like one or two teams, but this time, I mean, you've got Monty, Game Legion, Apex, and ITB, 4 teams that have somehow gotten their way into the top 8. And it's very, and I think I saw a tweet earlier today saying that it started with the people and it's going to end with the people, where the individuals that come together to make a scrappy 5 are going to be what makes up these last few teams to play in the last ever CSGO major. It's just insane. So I'm going to just try my best to get these pick'ems down. So I mean, if we get 2 of these 4 quarterfinals right, we'll get the gold coin, and that is again the goal that I've set for myself, because who knows, maybe even that might fall apart. So let's get into it. I'm going to have Team Liquid beating Apex. I think this is one of the ones that I'm most confident about, bar, Vitality into the breach. But I think the thing about Team Liquid at this point is I'm happy to be proven wrong about them. And they had this extremely slow start in that Challenger stage. They very quickly ramped up against tougher competition after that Fluxo hump that they had. And I'm just shocked that that series was as close as it was. And then the results following that were just absolutely out of this world. Team Liquid have been on an absolute rampage, and OC is having one of the best tournaments in his entire career. And I think that form can only continue to grow, especially with what I've seen from OC, obviously the limited sample size that he's had on stage. He's actually performed much higher than he does in the group stage. So I think that level of form is going to keep up. I think that Team Liquid should get it done, especially now the improvements with NAF, and Yekindar is finding a lot of form in his opening attempts. And then you obviously still have the trump card that could get played in playoffs with Elige. And that being said, I mean, you look down the list on Apex, and I don't necessarily know if there's firepower to match up against that. Sure, you've got Jacob putting up some unreal numbers, very Renegades-esque, and it's awesome to see. But beyond that, we have some inconsistent performances from Nock. JL has shown signs of really formidable rifling, but overall, I feel like bar that, I think there was this heavy overperformance from Kixan, and of course, you're not necessarily going to look to Stiko to provide some huge numbers for you, just with the roles that he's been given. He's much more of a mental center for this team, and overall, I think Liquid should be able to take care of business. Vitality versus ITB. Look, I think ITB is a really awesome story for Counter-Strike, for UKCS. I think they did some great things to get to this point. Of course, they always had to beat the team that was in front of them, but they managed to get it done. You look at the teams that they actually had to beat to get here. They beat ENCE, they beat FaZe, and that alone is just absolutely impressive to me, that they were able to get to this point. They were able to exploit a lot of flaws that these tier 1 teams and tier 1 organizations had, and get the job done. Credit to Thomas, credit to Juve to get the job done. But the problem is now that there's so much sample size against this kind of a team that likes to play the super pack mentality, T-side, with Cypher at the helm, and I think a lot of these teams that are now in this playoff situation will understand what the identity of ITB is, what maps they like to lean into, what their game plan is on specific maps, because of course there are different game plans depending on the map. And I think Vitality of all teams will have the best possible prep going into this series. I think they were honestly the best looking team in the entire Legend stage, in all honesty. ZywOo is, of course, hitting some peak numbers, and Magisk and Spinks are also showing up at the same time. Dupree's form hasn't dropped off, and Apex is stable enough to get them enough impact frags to get them over the line in some of these games. So I really enjoyed what I saw from Vitality, and I think this is the worst possible matchup for ITB to play. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Vitality, the hometown heroes, and ZywOo is going to end up playing in his first ever major semifinal. Monty versus Gamer Legion is another matchup that I think that a lot of people are leaning Gamer Legion very heavily. But my issue with this lineup is that, you know, I don't feel as though can get it done on a regular basis. I don't feel as though he's at a point in his career where he'll be regularly doing that. And that's a huge problem, right? Because when you go down the list, Acor hasn't necessarily been insane in terms of his numbers, and of course you've got Isaac, you've got Shuhei doing some great numbers in terms of opening frags. But one thing is for sure, if either Shuhei or IM's numbers drop even a little bit, this team's threatening position completely falls apart. And that's where I look at Monty, who are a team that don't feel any sort of pressure regardless of who's playing and how many lands that they've played. They look so comfortable. Of course, Boros, one of the highest rated riflers, and actually boasting a higher rating against top 5 teams as opposed to top 10 and top 20 teams. He's been an actual phenom of sorts. Now that SDY is supposedly calling Waro's individual prowess has seemingly increased as well, which is a huge need for this team. SDY is looking fearless on those rifles, taking a lot of aggressive duels and coming out on top. He looks a shell of his Navi self, and for good reason. I mean, that added pressure being removed from him, I think that's where this Monty core really starts to wake up. Demka is also having some great rounds himself, and you know, even Krasnal has had some awesome anchoring as well. And I think they've rattled enough top teams to me, and they've got a deep enough map pool, even if Anubis isn't in the pool, that they should be able to take it. And I'm going to have Monty going through to win this quarterfinal. And then we've got, you know, what could have been another potential major grand final in FaZe Heroic. Obviously, I think that the team that wins this should be able to make the final. But I don't really know where to lean here. You know, I obviously loved what I saw from Heroic in terms of consistency and, you know, the reliability that they couldn't get upset. They still managed to get it over the line 3-0, bar a very difficult best of 3 against Team Liquid. But at the same time, I think that right now, FaZe Clan is a team that I really don't feel like any team can put away. I feel as though at this point in time, there is a certain amount of clutchability that is not being shed by FaZe, and I'm starting to see what won them Katowice, what won them EPL, what won them Antwerp, and I'm starting to see those similar signs here in Paris right now. When you look at the teams that they had to beat to get here, the arduous task that they had to get here, and you know, of course, they've lost a lot of BO1s to some questionable teams, but when the going gets tough and they have to play up against, you know, teams that they should be supposedly losing to after, you know, being backed up against the wall, they seemingly always find a way. And there's always that killer call from Kerrigan at the tail end of some of these maps. You know, I've seen crazy comebacks all throughout the Legend stage and even the Challenger stage. Hell, even the LCQ. And with that kind of insane form that they've had, the insane run that they've had for so long, it feels like they are destined to win this best of 3. And of course, you look at the map pool and you don't even know where FaZe Clan can go. But again, it ties back to every single map that these guys are playing on. They always have a fighting shot. They always make it close. And somehow, some way, you know, you have so many different players that can clutch up. You've got Rops, you've got Brokey, you've got Twist. And hell, even Kerrigan and Rain can pull off some magic for themselves as well. So I'm going to take FaZe here. This is like my, oh my god, like a crazy pick out of left field in the sense that in all intents and purposes, Heroic should be winning this best of 3, like bar none. But I still feel like there is some magic left in the tank for FaZe, and now that they get onto the stage, this is where they do their best work, where some of these players elevate their game 5%, and where they get onto the server and they force their opponents to lower their level down a couple percentage points. And for that reason, I think I'm going to take FaZe here. And obviously I can continue that conversation and put them in to the to the grand final. I think that Monty doesn't have enough of caliber of individuals to go up against a FaZe or even a Heroic for that means. They don't have enough synergy in compared to either one of these teams, and I don't think they have enough stage experience to be either one of these teams. And for that reason, I think FaZe should be able to make it into the grand final. Liquid Vitality, look, I'll preface this entire bracket by saying I would love for Liquid to win the major. I want them to win the major. I would love for North America to get another trophy in its cabinet. And I think they definitely have the caliber of players as of right now to do so. But at the same time, right now, I feel like Vitality is also destined to be in that grand final, just with the way that they've been playing right now. I feel like this is the tournament where ZywOo can finally shed that moniker of a playoff choker. And at this point, he's got a team surrounding him that is definitely up to the task. So, of course, Spinks and Magisk have been doing great work, and more importantly, Dupree is not a liability for this roster. They've got a ton of experience to play at this point in the stage, except bar Spinks, of course. But beyond that, you've got Dupree, Magisk, and Zonic vying for their Dupree and Zonic vying for their 5th ever major. Magisk gunning for number 4. And I think that alone is just enough fuel to the fire for Vitality to take it over the top. I think they match up very well against Liquid. They also have some past matchup history that actually favors them. And I think that Liquid will have that in the back of their mind going into this best of 3, and I think that's why Vitality will come out on top. And then we'll have FaZe Vitality going head-to-head. Kerrigan against an old TSM core, or not really old TSM core, but you know what I mean. Playing against Dupree, former teammate, and playing against the likes of Zonic and Magisk, fellow countrymen as well. Seeing all the success that they had on Astralis under Glaive, and Kerrigan not being able to be a part of that, and then having to go toe-to-toe against one of the world's best, if not the best player in the world as of right now in ZywOo. So I think that this best of 3 could still be an incredible grand final. It still could be one for the ages. I think both of these teams are so explosive. There's so many players on both of these rosters that can clutch up a storm. We could have just an absolute incredible send-off to Counter-Strike with this grand final if we can get here. And I really hope to God that we can get here, because this will be some really entertaining Counter-Strike. But I'm going to have FaZe going all the way through the last chance qualifier, through the challenger stage, through the legend stage, and into the champion stage to win the final CSGO major. And why do I say that? I think at this point, I've spoken very highly of them for quite some time now. They are a roster that cannot seemingly fail at this point. As Maui says, they are the ultimate procrastinators. And I think for that reason, I feel like FaZe finally get to take it over the line here, where Kerrigan has the opportunity to win 2 majors and to be the only IGL to win with the international lineup. Not once, but twice. And that would just be an insane storyline. The Glaive versus Kerrigan accolades conversation is truly well underway. And at that point, you've got Twist going back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but becoming a 2-time major champion and a Grand Slam champion. You've got Rops at such a young age being able to amass an absolutely insane trophy cabinet to play under the tutelage of Kerrigan over on Mouse, and now lifting another major trophy with him on FaZe. And of course, you've got Brokey, the rifler that had to stand in for FaZe, and was an FPL star in his own right and didn't have any real hope for him. He was shunned by the community initially when he stepped in, and then became a full-time player for the squad, became an opper for the squad, and now has mastered his own unique style in close range to mid-range opping. And now at this point, I think this team has redefined how Counter-Strike can be approached. As you can see just by this top 8, you look at the amount of organizations and rosters that are attempting this international escapade, and the only team that was truly successful at it and is bar none FaZe Clan. So I'm gonna have them, breaking all the history books and denying ZywOo his first ever major and his only real opportunity to claim a major title. But that's gonna do it. I mean, you see that with a lot of pick'ems these days, there are a lot of bogus picks, and I think this could definitely be one of them. I think the ideal final or the theoretical ideal final is Heroic Vitality, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be some shenanigans here or there, and definitely some twists and turns on the horizon. And I'm excited to see what the send-off of the Paris Major is going to look like, what the final CSGO Major is going to look like. I've enjoyed my time. It's been stressful. It's been quite the roller coaster to see some of these favorites getting knocked out in the fashion that they did. But, that's Counter-Strike. I would love to see more open circuit tournaments after seeing this. Have these tier 1 organizations really button up, really start to fight back against these tier 2 opposition. But as a love for the tier 2 teams and seeing the potential that they have and actually it being realized is also super exciting. And I hope to see just the level ups from some of these teams, some of these pieces moving to better teams in the future. But who knows? So stay tuned. We'll probably have a Rescope episode to discuss the fallout of the Paris Major. We'll probably have a lot more content on some of these other rosters that might implode, some of these rosters that succeeded out of nowhere, and start that content grind soon enough. But from Paladin over here, that's going to do it. I'm very happy with how this major has turned out, even with the topsy-turvy matchups history that we've gotten. But you guys enjoy the playoffs. It's going to be an exciting weekend, and I hope you guys like my pick'ems. I'm sure you probably don't. But with that, stay tuned for more content, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.